Okay, good afternoon. I'm Gary Harvey from Rincon Resources. I'm the Managing Director. Rincon Resources is a West Australian-based exploration and company, and we're focused on exploring for gold and base metals, including copper in particular. And we're also starting to venture into some rare earth exploration at our Kiwirrkurra project.
Brilliant. Gary, nice to have you here. Nice to meet you in Western Australia, your backyard.
Yes, yep.
So tell me a little bit about you. What's your background? Because why I want to speak to you guys is it's like pure explorations, right? You've not made a discovery yet. You've got to get out there and find something. So we can talk about that in a second, but your background, please.
So look, my background, I'm a geologist by trade.
Yeah.
And I came to Western Australia in 1995 as a junior geologist. I've been exploring primarily for gold and nickel and cobalt, primarily for the better part of my career, and now branching into Rincon, the transition to Rincon, I've now started to branch into copper and rare earths. I think my experience in the exploration space is ideal for a company such as Rincon, because that's where we are.
Okay.
We're on the hunt,
and
you need geologists with exploration experience to lead that hunt. So here I am.
Sounds like that's a nice answer to a job interview. Right, okay. So what was the brief, day one? Because obviously we've been here, what, a couple of years, just a couple of years?
Yeah,
so frame, right?
Yeah, Rincon floated in December 2020.
Yeah.
And the board at the time was mainly corporate guys, guys with financial and some technical experience, but they really had no one on the ground to manage the day-to-day operations, and in that aspect, this really getting the contractors, consultants, and running the actual on-ground exploration. So look, I was approached for that role, given my level of experience in Western Australia in particular. I mean, obviously with my 25 plus years experience, I've developed a lot of contacts, consultants, contractors, all that like. So I was able to bring that on board and immediately, was able to get action happening, particularly at our South Telfer project, which took a long while to get into. I mean, we struggled early on to get a suitable contractor. So look, I came in, I had the contacts.
Right.
We were able to get the right people on board, and we were able to get that program going. So,
and their brief is what? We've got some assets. They go find something. Was it as simple as that?
Well, yes. I mean,
because they hadn't.
Absolutely. I mean, the company has three really good assets in my view. But the struggle early on was, in a hot market. There was a lot of stuff going on, trying to find contractors and the people and actually executing on surveys, all the prerequisites to getting started on the ground was quite difficult.
Tricky time. You came in during COVID with flight restriction. You came in when it was a hot market, everything was super expensive or didn't exist, skill sets for people, right? So tricky times, and I appreciate the difficult start in that environment. But what were you looking for? Because small companies have limited, the cash constraint, right?
Yeah.
You got a bunch of assets, you got to say, well, what's number one priority for us? What's the most efficient use of our capital allocation? And your answer to that was
and look, that was clear and simple at the time. The brief was get up to South Telfer. Right. That still is our flagship project.
Okay.
Now that's a big copper gold play for us.
Why is it your number one?
That particular asset already had known mineralisation, which was outcropping, copper gold mineralisation at surface at our prospect called Hastie's. So we knew there was a system there that, for whatever reason, had been explored, but then moved on.
Right.
The people who owned it moved on.
Explored meaning you inherited some data, or you bought some data?
No, we inherited data.
Right.
So we inherited a data set.
Right.
And there was enough drilling there to tell us that there was a system in place.
Okay.
And it just needed further work.
Okay.
And it was
how much drilling? How much data? I'm intrigued.
So the existing drilling had pretty much defined copper gold anomalism over about 300-400 metres.
Okay.
In fact, over two areas across a 1 kilometre span. And there was some drilling here at one end at Hastie's, and then there was a little bit of drilling at the south end at Hastie's Southeast. And look, when I came in, the belief was, we'll do these two systems attach? Are they one system?
Yeah.
And so it was a matter of, okay, what do we need to do to turn this thing into something potentially significant? Well, that was twofold. One, we need to verify and validate the existing information with some drilling, and then also infill.
Yeah.
Now we got probably halfway through that program,
right?
And we had some really good results. Unfortunately, the market didn't respond the way it did. So before going in and continuing with that program,
was that 21 or 22?
That was late 2021 after we'd finished that first round. So. Yeah, we had some really good results, but we didn't really, we weren't able to answer the question.
Well, tell us what those good results are. Obviously people want you to knock it out of the park all the time.
Yeah.
The reality was what?
Well, the reality was, we had some good wide intersections of, plus 1.5 grams per tonne gold, probably around about 0.5% nickel. I can't recall those actual intersections, but to me as a geologist, they were really good. And the important thing about those results at the time was that they compared really favourably with the type of average grades that you would see at a lot of the operations or mines elsewhere, right? And I'm talking about Telfer, talking about the new Harvey deposit. Gold is around that 1.5, 1.2 grams per tonne. I think Harvey is probably a little bit higher in grade, but it's split into reserve and resource. But look, Telfer in particular, man, they're pushing dirt through their mill at less than 0.5 gram thereabouts. So the grades,
it's an engineering process. Low grade doesn't worry me at all. It's the economics.
I thought the grades were really good. But we didn't quite demonstrate the size, what the potential size of the system.
Right. So the question of market not reacting positively, cash constraints. So you weren't able to finish that process of saying, did these two join up? And do whatever infill that you need. So you're talking about infill between the two assets. You're talking about infill within each asset. You're talking about trying to join them up, right?
We're trying to join them up.
Okay.
So a long strike near the surface, and then we also wanted to test that depth as well. So, and when I talk about testing at depth, we did manage to drill a deep diamond hole. We had a really good target sitting below that particular system, and we tested that target, and unfortunately, we hit a lot of alteration indicative of a big system, but it failed to deliver on grade. So that forced us to say, oh, hang on a minute, before we go putting any more holes into this, let's try and understand this a bit more. So we're still going through the process of some technical studies to try and answer the questions of, will this be a big system? If so, how big? And then how best do we then spend our next round of money on drilling to get the best results?
Right, and obviously in your space, cash is king. Timing is also quite useful in the mix, right? So if you didn't get that at the end of 2021, you didn't get the reaction you want, you certainly weren't going to get that reaction in 2022. No one did. No. Right? So
no, that's
problematic,
correct.
Right? So you best not to spend money in that kind of environment. Was that issue?
That's right. So we're instead, well, we are, but just not at elevated levels.
Right.
We're ticking away in the background on that one. But in the meantime, we've been focusing on identifying new targets within the same project area. We've actually come up with a suite of really good targets.
Targets are easy to find. It's discoveries that are the hard
Well, that's right.
So that's the bit I'm trying to get. That's the thing I can kind of get behind, right? So in terms of cash, where are you today? You mentioned what number?
So we're about 1.2.
Right. So
you've got to be careful,
right? You've got to be careful about how you allocate that.
That's right.
So how do you significantly increase your likelihood of converting a target to a discovery? How do you do that?
I guess you've got to make sure that your targets are the best targets that they can be.
Right.
And it's about a weighted evidence, right? So you try to find as much evidence to support that target being the best target.
Are they going to be completely new, or do you say, well, actually, let's continue to do a weight of work around where we have been allocating our capital till now? Would you go somewhere new and start fresh? What's the?
Oh no! Look, we believe where we are is where we should be.
Right. Okay.
We think the potential of South Telfer is huge. We have two very good targets that we plan to test this year. At one called Mammoth and another one called Recurve. Now these are both targets that were defined through a combination of geophysics, magnetics, gravity, but also low-level anomalism from historical drilling. So these things add up, right? And good geology, and we know there are long strikes on some really good structures along strike from Telfer and other known deposits such as Grace and indeed Hasties. So We think those two targets are big targets for us, and we're really looking forward to getting in and drill those.
Right.
The timeline is another thing that needs to be answered, because where we are, there's restrictions to access that you've got to work through. There's a process to developing access and clearance. So obviously you've got to pre-clear these areas and get approval to drill in regards to native title.
Yeah.
Now we know the native title groups up there are quite inundated with a lot of work, because there's a lot of companies active and the demands on them are quite high. So, just saying it, we're on a survey tomorrow, it doesn't happen, right? You say you want to do one, they say, yep, no worries, we'll find an allocated time to you, and then it's just a matter of waiting and getting it done.
Right. Okay.
Then you can go and drill, hopefully.
Okay, so given we accept what you want to do, and we understand your cash position, etc. And I love these conversations, because it's like every decision matters.
Yeah.
Right. Every decision matters.
Yeah.
Every dollar matters.
Absolutely.
You've got a big portfolio. Clearly, you can't attack all of that at the same time. So, are there any kind of monetizing events where, because any kind of income to you is significant as a percentage of your available cash today, it would be significant, assuming it wasn't an all-share deal. Are you looking to offload, or could you offload? Could you JV? Could you get money in any other way?
Yeah, look, they are options.
Right.
You can always sell an asset. We don't want to sell an asset outright, because
might sell the wrong one. They might find something.
It's always risky to just sell an asset unless you know that it's got nothing to offer.
Yeah.
And someone wants to buy that regardless. But there's ongoing discussions. Everyone has discussions about potentially looking for someone to come in and help you for a joint venture arrangement.
Right.
We've had several of those types of discussions. So it's a work in progress, and you had that on all your projects, and you weigh that up against, okay, well, if we farm this one out, where do we go to next? If we farm that one out, where do we go to next? What do we do? So we weigh all that up. We try to assess the risks on all that.
Yeah.
What's best for the company? What's best for the shareholders?
Yeah.
So we can
extract those guys, the shareholders. Let's talk about them. What is their main criticism of the company?
Look, at the moment, I think maybe a criticism might be a perceived lack of urgency.
Right.
I don't think there's a lack of urgency, but I think given where our projects are, two of them, our main ones, Kiwirrkurra and South Telfer, are both remote, and they're both in, they're both distal projects. It does take time to go through the approval process to actually then get on the ground to do works.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with Kiwirrkurra. Okay, we've had that since day one, but it was only until probably late last year that we finally got ministerial approval and consent to mine. Which
are you worried about that?
Look, it's a concern, but we think a project like Kiwirrkurra, it's worth that weight.
Yeah.
Because we really haven't done any damage to it, right? We know it's got this massive potential.
Yeah.
But we really want to test that.
Yeah.
So I think that's, in my view, that's worth the wait.
Right.
And I think only by getting in there and actually finally testing it, we're really going to understand what this project might be worth.
Right.
And then you can decide what you might want to do with it after then, right? South Telfer, as I said, that's our flagship project. It has the same types of issues, heritage in particular. Then you've got physical access. The network of tracks up there are few and far between, and you've got to collaborate with other parties to facilitate access. And then there's seasonal issues. Okay, so this time of the year you'd simply interrupted by cyclonic weather, right? So roads close every second day.
Right.
So the season to get out and do work when you can is generally between April and probably October, maybe November the latest.
Okay.
So limited fill season.
Yeah.
A project like Laverton, it's a different story. Okay, Laverton's in the goldfields. You can access it almost 24/7, but we don't rank Laverton as high as Telfer and Kiwirrkurra. So even though we can probably get out there and do something on a day-to-day basis, we don't really want to be spending a lot of money there at the moment until we've got Laverton to a position where we say, right, we know what we've got to do there. We've got these targets. Let's go and drill them. Okay. So, we work through these things all the time.
Yeah, right? I know.
Every board meeting is a robust discussion about.
I bet. Well, it is at this level, and I think that's what people don't appreciate. Look, exploration's tough, right? Very few ever kind of make it through to production. Very few even get to development stage. Very few make a discovery, quite frankly, and it's tough. But that's what I'm saying. You've got to be really honing in on what's important and what's not. So if you were talking to shareholders and you're looking at 2023, what would you say to them? Look, here are the important events coming up, or here are the important things that we need to do. And that could be monetizing some of your portfolio. It could be raising capital. It could be the drill program or intelligent groundwork with the capital you've got available to you, or it could be going off and finding another asset and raising money against that. We've seen that today in a conversation with someone had to do that. Yeah. This flagship project, fell on its ass. They had to go and find something else, and they did quite successfully. So all above is fine. But what would you point people to?
Look, I think our shareholders and people who'd like to be investors should really keep an eye on what we're planning for South Telfer in particular. Yeah. We've got the 2 ripping targets at Mammoth and Recurve, and we're desperate to get in there and do the drilling. I think that'll be something to really look forward to. And now the next one, I guess, is Kiwirrkurra. So we're working hard with Kiwirrkurra to get to a point where we've got some really nice targets to drill. Yeah. We have developed targets previously with some review work that we did from geophysics, but now we're starting to do a bit more geochemistry and mapping to try and constrain those targets so that when we do go out there, knowing it's generally expensive to get there, that we're testing the right targets. And look, I've always held Kiwirrkurra close to my heart. I think the Kiwirrkurra will surprise all of us. And look,
why do you say that? Because I think if you've got shareholders looking and you go, you're too emotionally attached to this. Maybe I don't know, but maybe they think that. Why should they not think that?
Look, Kiwirrkurra is a system that we know to be significant.
Right.
All right. I think potentially a massive system.
Okay.
And it's not only massive in the sense it's got potential for a really nice IOCG copper gold project, but it's also got rare earth potential as well. Okay, and we've seen that with the likes of WA1 to the north of us, finding 2 deposits in the space of 2 weeks, and that's a rare earth niobium deposits. And we've got similar structure, similar geology. All right, but we until now haven't even looked at that opportunity. So that's something we're looking at now, as well as the IOCG now. Where we did some recent geochemical analysis and geochemical work, and look, the results of that will be presented to the market in a not too distant future. But I think that will really surprise people, and it really confirms and validates to me, the potential this thing has, and you just wouldn't look at any other option other than getting in there and having a crack at it before letting it go, or whatever you might want to do with it. So that's why I really like Bacali in particular, Kiwirrkurra project, and South Telfer. We've already seen in the Paterson province Havron, in the Rios Bunu, right? Massive deposits that have been discovered in the last 5-10 years, and we're sitting on some really juicy structures that are very similar to what those deposits are found on. So,
so give it a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
Let you realise the value.
Yeah. Just we're working on it, right? We're progressing to the point where we're ready to drill, and we should be doing it in 2023. On the flip side, Laverton, we're still trying to figure out what we want to do with Laverton. Okay, so I dare say there'll be more to be said about that probably at some stage this year, but we're not ready to go and do any drilling at Laverton just yet.
Okay. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on. I do like an exploration story, like at this stage as well. You know, pre-discovery is always fun.
Keep your eye on Kiwirrkurra. Like I said, it's I think it'll be something to behold. Yeah.